I would like to call the Streets, Alleys, Street, and Bridges Committee to order. In attendance tonight is Ms. Paula Durbin, committee member Mrs. Carrie Zager, and Ken Bodkins, chairperson. Also in attendance tonight is Tom O'Leary, mayor, legal counsel, Thomas Palmer, and Nikki Ward, service director. And also in attendance, we have one visitor tonight, Mr. Doug Osborne, would like to speak about an alley situation. Could I get approval on the previous meeting, minutes of the previous meeting? Have you read it over? You'd like to make that motion?
I'll second
And
that.
second, McCary, thank you. And also, we will have to have approval of the agenda for this evening. Carrie?
I'll make the motion.
You make the motion to accept them,
I'll second.
and Paul Servant will second that motion. And now that that's discussed, we're going to discuss the items, but right now we have our friend Doug Osborne here tonight would like to speak, so if he'd step up here.
I live at 252 Walker Street, and we've had problems with the alley between 252 and 250. That alley goes from Walker Street to Erie Street. And I talked to Ken about it here some time back, and he got a hold of Andy, and Andy had come out and they patched and worked on it a little bit. And almost immediately, it got actually even worse after they did that.
Okay.
And I'll pass these around, and you can, there's three of them there that you can look at. But it got to where water was coming in on the apron that goes into my garage. It was too high, so he did come back out then and cut that down so that wouldn't be coming in there. But the problem with the standing water, the big potholes still exist. So I sent him these pictures. Well, let me read that. I sent this letter to Andy. I said, I appreciate the efforts you've taken to resolve our alley problems in the past. I'm sorry to say they're very short-lived solutions. The potholes are deep as well as wide as shown in the photos. This alley is high traffic used by several families that face Erie Street, and also delivery trucks are using that as a shortcut coming down Park Avenue. That alley is straight ahead, so FedEx and UPS is coming back and forth on there as well. So, I appreciate what he's done, and I asked him, short of paving, do we have any other choices on that? And I really don't see any if that's not going to hold. So I'd ask, who do I need to contact, or what do we need to do to go from here? So I saw in the paper that you're meeting tonight, so
Yeah, thank you.
I hadn't heard back from Andy on it.
Yeah.
This was December 18th.
I don't know where this would be handed to, but it would be, Nikki, would you be the one to hear about this and see what you can do and contact Mr. Osborne when you find something out about the best
I'll
we can do?
leave those pictures that they can have
Okay.
that, because I have others here too. Yeah, you said, do I have any complaints? No, I don't have complaints, because I would have complaints if people weren't trying,
Yeah.
but they've been
Well, we
trying.
tried once and it didn't work, so let's try
Yeah.
it again.
Doug,
Yeah.
you're at the
Oh,
west
thank you.
end, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So if you come out of Park,
Yeah, we're the fourth house in the corner, right on the corner faces the other way. Yeah, it's on the north side of the street there, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's.
That's a mess, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
well, it's wet right now. I mean,
Yeah.
they're deep
Yeah.
enough, it fills up with water, and it's really bad. So,
God bless all the alleys.
yeah. But,
Yeah.
if you look at that alley too, all the people from Erie Street comes down there and turns and comes
Yeah.
down, and you can see where they turn, because the alley's
Yeah.
piled up, on
Right.
the top. And they go.
Right.
So, anything that can be considered or any suggestions, I'd appreciate it.
Well, yes, Nikki can handle that when she gets time.
Very good.
I'll take a look at it. And Doug, thank you for
Yep,
coming.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
You see them?
Hey Doug, before you split, the only thing I would say, there's probably not much of a base, you can't tell from the pictures, but we could chip seal more alleys if we took an allocation that's in this year's budget that's really was earmarked for crack sealing and perhaps split that and do some alleys with chip seal. I don't know how you,
Well, now, what you see here,
yeah.
they went in with the bucket loader and they cut it down
yeah,
that far. And I think hopefully thought we'd get down to a better base than,
Yeah.
because it'd just been, lay some more gravel on top.
Yeah. but what I'm saying it would be to put gravel down, then put some tar down, and then put some gravel on top of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that, just from the pictures, it's kind of hard to tell, but I don't want you to, thank you very much for your pictures. We'll forget about you as soon as. I mean, so I'm trying to think of what can be done, and maybe it's chip seal.
Yeah, no, I'm not against trying something else too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I do.
about 150, but the 150,000 for maintenance of roadway. That's the entire budget. So
Other
Well,
than
now
moving,
we're
you don't have a
another-
choice, do you?
ache and pain. Okay.
All right,
Okay, thank you,
I
Doug.
got you.
Appreciate it, thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda tonight, the unnamed alley off of Covert Way to Wood Alley. That's Elizabeth Blevins, and I've talked with Mr. Palmer, and I called the post office. There doesn't seem to be a problem, except we have to make the first move to get there. I believe Thomas has the stuff drawn up for this evening.
Yeah, the ordinance has been drawn up. There is
Okay.
a necessity for this process to have a public hearing.
Yeah, okay.
So if the committee is desirous of moving forward with this, that would be the next step, is to set a public hearing.
You have to go through regional planning.
No, just planning commission, not regional planning.
Sorry.
Can we add
Yes.
that to a
Sorry.
council meeting? I'm sorry. Do we
Yes,
add that?
yes,
We
it
can
would
just add that
typically be-
Maybe the next one,
I'm
if
sorry.
I can, okay,
It usually is,
End of the month,
yes.
okay,
last Wednesday of the month,
Right.
kind of. But-
Planning commission, yes.
Yeah, planning commission.
Oh,
So that would,
planning.
it would have to go through planning. They're in favor of it. I
Okay.
think the idea kind of
Okay.
came out of the committee and planning commission itself, so I think
do I
that.
have to contact the planning committee, or
I just give Tasha a call in the morning and we can
Okay.
make sure.
I can tell.
can you do that? Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Okay,
And we'll put that on the agenda. Mrs. Baldinger resigned late last year.
oh,
So
okay,
there's a matter of an appointment for the chair of the planning commission, so
okay.
anybody
Forgot about that.
all jazzed up about that illustrious appointment, it's kind of, no, we have a good group, and we'll be able to meet in Sharon's absence, so.
Okay,
But,
okay.
but in seriousness, if somebody wants to serve, there's an opening on the planning commission.
Okay. I just think this will just take the heat off that situation. And
Whose
she-
idea
I
was
called her-
that?
I called her and
Is
talked.
that your idea?
Huh?
Is that your idea to change that?
Yeah,
That alley? It's a
Yeah.
good one.
I called
Are
the
you sure
post
that was
office.
your idea?
Don't make me get out of this.
No, that's a really good, Ken, that's a really good idea.
No, that's the only way. I was trying to keep everybody happy
She's
without.
she's been there forever. It's a good solution.
See, I can talk to her, she talks the way she wants to me, but I think, I called her and said that we're getting on the move tonight. We'll talk about it and it'll be planned out. We'll have to work through it, but I think it'll get done.
No, I think, let me see here, the planning commission, at the risk of, you could probably schedule a public meeting, assuming that that the planning commission is gonna stay consistent, then it would be 30 days, I don't know.
Yes,
First, I can-
that's what my recommendation would be, to go ahead and pass the ordinance on to council.
Okay.
It's, the worst that can happen is if the planning commission decides otherwise.
I forgot to give the,
Well, yeah, but we have it, we very much have it, I
right,
read
it
it.
doesn't have a number yet.
Yeah,
So, but, I mean, before the next meeting, before the public hearing, they'll have another meeting, so we can,
well, there you go.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yes, you don't need to pass it
It's a
tonight.
really good idea, Ken.
Yeah.
And Mark's idea to make it use Wood Street versus the
Yeah.
Hornet's Nest we were getting in on East Street
Yeah,
was,
you know, sometimes
It's a
one
good
noisy
move.
person's all it takes for everybody else.
Yeah, it was.
But she's very happy with this situation.
that's really good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'll be
Well, I
anxious
wasn't sure
get
what
that.
to do, but calling the post office is the right thing, because they said, you guys can do whatever you want, just let us know what you want to do. That's all.
All
So,
right.
thank you.
Just so we're on the same page, Mr. Watkins, if I might,
Yes.
because I just heard Tom use the phrase Wood Street. The ordinance is written as Wood Alley.
Yeah, we.
Is
we
that what you
decided
want?
that Julie and I talked about Wood Court instead of Alley. Court sounded better.
Well, just so we know what to put in there and what to,
Yeah,
And the public hearing, I just counted up, the public hearing could be done on February 22nd.
that's fine.
There you go.
Is that all right with council members here? I mean, or, okay.
At that council meeting.
What'd you think, 22nd? Okay.
Get the signs ready in anticipation of.
Paint them on the board and hang it up like.
So, yes, you like the court better than without. It does
Yeah,
sound-
Okay.
sounds a little better, yes. Okay. If there's any more discussion on that, we'll go to item B on the list tonight, and that's the unplatted alley between Murray and Workman Street. We had a public hearing on that, but nothing has really been done, how we're gonna handle this, so. Do we vacate the alley? There's no alley there, they say. That legally, someone said it was our problem. So, and that was Reed's Mills, I believe. So what are we gonna do? We gonna just let the neighbors work it out, or are we gonna, do something? I don't know. Someone already started with the fence, okay? That's the start of it. So what do we do from here, Tom? Suggestions?
well, just to, first of all, anything like this, I think the best thing to do, number one, is to look at the facts that we know.
Yeah,
You referenced Reese Mills.
yes.
Since that meeting that was held here with the neighborhood, a letter surfaced that Reese Mills wrote. I don't remember the exact year, but I have a copy of the letter furnished by one of the people involved. And that letter says that, in his opinion, based on the city's actions of maintaining the area, that it is de facto dedication of the area for an alley. Now, what's challenging with that is, first of all, it's over 20 years ago. There's no indication of what he was basing that on in terms of the specific kinds of things the city was doing. Then there's the issue where, and I'm very aware of this as current law director, I'm not sure you have the authority to do that.
Yes.
And then you have the third thing, which since that time, there has been activity on there inconsistent with an alley. You mentioned the fence.
Yes.
And if you've been by there, that fence is very visible and very much crosses the area that would have been an alley. The challenge we have is that, and that you could look at it as the city's challenge, or you can look at it as purely private, is that those lots, as they go back from the two sides toward the alley, are inconsistent. Some of them have descriptions in their deeds, property descriptions, that include the entire, we're referring to as the alley. Some of them have none of it. Some of them have half of it, while the other one has none of it, which means that there's a section which has no titled ownership whatsoever. That's the facts. That's what we've got in front of us. So the question is, really, is this a purely private matter? Or is this something where council would want to get involved? I think council, if you did want to get involved, you would be doing one of two things. One is either declaring it, recognizing what Mr. Mills wrote 20 years ago and saying, yep, that's an alley, and we're going to from now on use it as an alley and maintain it as an alley. Obviously, that's going to be a problem for people with the fence in question. And the other thing you could do is you could recognize the alley and then vacate it. And so the alley doesn't exist. That doesn't address the no man's land, but that's not necessarily the city's issue.
I've spoken with Paul about this situation. I don't know if we should just, I'd like to dedicate the alley, then vacate it in the same sense, and let the neighbors try to work it out, but I think we should try to talk to them too before we do anything and see, are you guys able to work this out? You said your friend, the lady might be willing to let that fence stay right where it's at, maybe? She's not sure yet. They haven't talked about it.
I question why Waldinger let them put that fence right on the line. It's not a fence that doesn't need maintenance. But when they cut the trees off,
Yeah.
Jim and Brenda's tree, they cut the limbs off the tree.
They could have talked about it first.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
that was
No
that was not a-
communication.
Yeah, that was not a good
Okay,
thing.
now that's one point you just made, was some property is bigger than another. So they
Yes.
were surveyed by their plat. Boom, they're across the road, the alleyway, we'll say. So if them people can work that out, maybe we should try to do that. I don't want to be involved with it, but I gave the property to my daughter. My daughter has 2 lots right there in the corner. And she goes back, I don't think they care about the guy that said that Trish was the guy that gave the land to the city years ago. He had a moving company. And since they didn't really do anything with it, he wants it back. Well, I don't think my son-in-law and my daughter really care about that. But they just got a little upset when he started getting grindings from the road somewhere, and they was putting it, and it was going over in their yard. They just didn't think that was right, and it isn't right. You should ask first before you
Yeah,
do
their
something.
property has half of the alley, I think.
Okay.
Their property does.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if they would want to argue about that, but I'm not going to speak for them because it's their property now, not mine. So I think that's the right thing to do, but maybe if we could get them all together in here and see if it could be worked out. I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. What do you
That
think?
attempt was made. I'm not for a moment saying that attempt shouldn't be tried again, but we do have this additional information. This is actually a 130-year-old problem.
Yes.
That's when we reserved the right to put in an alley.
Right.
It was in 1870s or 80s. So this,
I used that alley 65 years ago when I
one
was
of
a
those
kid.
things we just inherit. So, they haven't been able to work it out
Yeah.
heretofore. But obviously, I don't know. I would think the city would stand behind it if the property owners could
Yeah.
work it out. I would hope.
I know
so.
3 of the people on the one side of the road, on Walnut Street side.
Mhm.
The Smith Street side, I know one person, that's it. So, I really hate to get involved, but I think we need to get this solved, and just get it away from us, one way or the other, either take it or leave it. I don't know how to do it, that's why I'm asking. I want to do it right, I want to do it legal,
Well, if someone wants to challenge
yeah.
something out there, we're going to be involved in
Yeah.
that. So
We have to make a
It's-
decision
we
what we're
can't-
going to do,
permanently step back.
yeah.
There is an option, something I've been thinking about. There is an option because of those no man's
Yeah,
land.
Right.
That we could actually file something with the court. It's called a quiet title action, which basically means just have the court declare who owns what. And if there's instead of us doing it, the court would say, there is an alley there or there isn't.
Then that would be forwarded on to the county engineer and the auditor so the deeds could show that.
Yes,
That's
yes,
more
Yeah.
what people want us to.
yes.
They want to show that that's on the deeds.
Yeah, okay.
That's the big issue, because if they ever decide to sell their house and it says Brenda says there's an alley behind her on her deed.
Yes. Oh, there are deeds that say that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
does the Williams, says
Yeah.
there's an area.
they would decide to sell it, it's not where their fence line is. That's what they want more than anything, is to have their deeds say exactly what their,
Good idea.
yeah.
Well, how would we pursue something like that?
Well, when that came up, Ken, what I did was, my thought went immediately to who can file that kind of an action. Does the city have what's referred to as standing? And I suspect we do. It is in our corporate limits. But certainly what the neighboring property owners could do it.
We work with that.
What's the urgency?
Another
I
concern
don't know if there is.
that 2 or 3 of the neighbors have, in order to maintain that fence, that big new fence, it looks very nice, they have to go on other people's property to maintain the fence because it's right on the line. And it's not a self-maintaining fence. It is
Yeah.
not.
I know, you have to leave your self-maintenance for a water fence.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
May I
sir.
ask that question?
You sure
I want-
can.
You know, like, what's the urgency? Seems like it's the second thing we're talking about. Seems like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that you had property ownership, but I think all of us understand
Yeah,
the nature of the other complainant and
Yeah.
the special pleader for their point of view.
well, I think it's not
like the
that
last
big of
thing
an
that seems to
emergency.
be out of touch.
I'm
Huh?
sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying, it's the last thing we ought to touch.
Yeah,
I'd rather talk about Doug's problem,
yeah, right.
as unsolvable as that is, than trying to wade into this by some sort of litigation that, if the parties don't want to solve it, litigating it, you'll get an answer,
Yeah,
okay? But it's not going to be one that both sides will be happy with. I think you ought to consider a sideline, let's just see what happens.
okay.
We've had a lot of success not getting into neighbor disputes.
Yeah,
I'll check into why the fence was issued, Paul. I think that's the permit, why that happened. I'll try to get back, I will get back with you on that, but doesn't seem to me to be
it's not a
something,
priority.
I don't
Yeah.
think it needs urgently,
No,
and largely because the outcome, there won't be a half-loaf solution, I don't think.
well, see, we already had a public meeting,
Yeah.
and that means we got something started, but they just want to know, when are we going to solve this? What, can we get out of it and just get away from it? That's what I'd like to know. you know?
I think what I heard, although not invited to that meeting,
Yes,
that it was drawing the city into an issue that is an issue among neighbors. That's what I heard. So maybe it was good that I wasn't invited, but if I'd have been there, I'd have said that.
oh, yeah.
That this is not exactly like, but you'll have open burning issues,
Yeah,
where somebody is upsetting a neighbor and close compliance. So we had a lot of success trying to stay out of these sorts of disputes. Well, what would be my answer? I would say, let the neighbors litigate this. Let them determine that. I don't know why we initiate that.
I'm not, I think that's exactly what I said at the beginning, was this is either a purely civil or something that the city has no vested interest really that I've heard of whether or not there's an alley in there or not. It's purely a private local thing on that section. What I was simply saying was if this does come to litigation among neighbors, we will be involved.
okay.
So, what's the urgency? I couldn't think of any
No.
reason to say it was urgent.
Other than I had a couple ask me, what are you doing about that?
Well,
I'm not doing
that would be
anything
the
about it.
urgency, is if you want to respond to your constituents. But,
Yeah.
you know, in order to be the heavy hammer and to move forward in the solution, that may not be the best idea. It could be best just to see if someone takes the initiative there to
Okay.
try and rectify it on their own.
Okay, thank you. Have anything to add to that, Paula?
The biggest thing they want, they just want their deeds to say what it actually is. They don't, they're not upset about the fence, they're not upset about, they just don't want them on their property. But the deeds have to reflect what the property is.
Yeah.
And they all say different things than what the auditor's office has. That's the problem. What's at the auditor's office and the tax office are not the same as what's on their deeds. That's the only thing that they want settled is, how much property do I have? And when I sell it, I don't want them to come back on me and say, you didn't tell me that you were 3 feet short or something,
Yeah.
you know? They just want their deeds to be accurate.
And in order to get that, Paula, in order to do what you just said,
Mhm.
the city will have to be involved. When that time that is, whatever time
Yeah.
that is, the city will have to be involved, because they'll have to know if there's an alley there or not,
Right.
or if we vacated it, or whatever the situation is.
So last time this property is, like, must have been cash paid for, because the last time there was a
Yeah.
mortgage on that, this would have been identified previously. This is not, this.
The
this is a-
landowners would pay that
What's
with their
that?
property taxes would.
Yeah, I know,
so-
but what I'm saying is when somebody went to purchase that property, at some point historically,
Oh, okay.
the bank would have required a survey, and this issue that you would think would have come up. So you kind of wonder why the title search on that property didn't identify that.
I can tell you
this
why.
issue. Thank you, good.
That's because this is all that Reese did, was write this letter and send it to the county engineer. And so there was a notation on that, but there was nothing in the recorder's office. He didn't record it. I mean, it was, so, you know, not to dump on him, but
Yeah.
He did what he was told.
that's probably true.
So
Because
much
there
for
may
the
have been other
era
things
of
going on.
Professional city management.
Yes.
That's when this happened.
Yeah.
And the side deal that, well, the city went out there and put some stone in there, so therefore we have some sort of, that's our claim to own the alley. That's pretty hokey. It gets, I think
Couldn't agree more.
everybody here knows that there was an employee and all that BS. So,
Yeah.
anyways, my recommendation, I agree with everything Thomas has said, I think, and that we
Do
should,
you have anything more to
if
add?
they want to litigate it, litigate
Gary,
it.
you have anything to say? Okay, well, why don't we just let B go?
Okay.
And, see.
If the fence was put up though, Paula, if the permit shouldn't have been issued, we'll look at that. I'm not sure what we do at this point. We'll upset that, we'll
Yeah.
upset the folks that, the women put that up.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Now on C, the funds 201, 202, and 203, sources and uses. Now who's gonna handle that one?
You know, I don't know how much we want to get into it, but I'll start. I think the purpose of it is that it's one of the more complicated parts of the budget, how these three funds can work together, or sometimes in the past they've worked separately. They weren't well coordinated. A good example of that is last year, 203. I'm going to go backwards if you'll indulge me for a second. The simplest one is if you look at the 21 budget, there was nothing appropriated to use those $5 license plate fees. This year, we've appropriated $200,000. But there is, by the end of next year, there will be the 200 that's there now, plus the revenue from this year. So one of the things we may want to look at is there's probably an additional 200,000 that could be used to either pay some of the roadway debt that we have, or it could be used to muscle up, beef up, if you'll accept that, those terms, this year's paving program. So it gets into the weeds too much to start talking about why we didn't appropriate money. Oh gosh, I would say 15, 16 months ago in 203, but we didn't. So that's, as you look at those funds, well, what's this 203? The money comes from the $5 license plate fee. It has grown a little bit over the last handful of years, but it wasn't appropriated. We didn't spend anything there last year. So, are there any questions about 203?
So, excuse me, are you just taking, the license plate fee is $20, you're just taking?
Did I say $5? Oh,
Yes.
well, I only pay $5.
You do not.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We'll
It is
write you
20.
up for that
It is
one.
20 per vehicle. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Go ahead, but that is the, yeah, honestly, that $20, I misspoke. But, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying $5.
Yeah, okay,
Well,
good.
I was
Okay.
thinking maybe you
It
put
was at one time.
$5 of that 20 into this and $5 into.
No, it doesn't. It
Okay.
all goes into that fund, and since I've been mayor, we've used that it's generally about half of that local paving program. If you were to go back, it's around almost 400,000 every year. Someday, not for a while, we might be able to start paving our residential streets more than a block or two at a time. That would be a goal, but it's real inefficient. We don't get the best prices when we do 2 blocks of Columbus and then we jump around. The goal would be to get a more level pavement quality and then go around systematically and pave more of an area, but we're not there yet. And so that's 203, $20, thank you. And it generates just a shade over 200,000 bucks. 201 or 202, folks, is the state highway fund. It's fueled by a portion of the state license tax, that $50 or whatever you pay over there. It's not quite 50, it isn't getting, but that fee, a portion of that comes back to the city, and without too much detail, that's figured, and the portion of the gas tax is figured on the number of miles of state highway you have in the city. So it's probably the only good thing about annexing out to the airport and annexing to 61. The bad part comes, you have to maintain that. And I'd say about that area, that roadway to Crestline, that is scheduled to be resurfaced in 2 years from now, urban paving. It didn't seem to me to be that necessary, but it's coming up around the bend the next few years. They've done the initial scoping. And we pay a portion of that, the formula not worth getting into tonight. But when the Hardingway project was done, we have a big contribution to that. And it's out of the same program that 61 will be paved in a couple of years. So the money comes from those two sources. Chunk of gas tax, state gas tax allocated to the city, and a part of the state license plate tax that come back to us. The way the budget's set up, we're going to try to use all the revenue that comes into that fund to pay 2 debts. One is a 0% loan, and forgive me, I don't have the exact year. I think we're in 5 years into a 20-year loan for the concrete section of Portland Way South. It's about $30,000 a year. The other half of that money is designed to pay the city's share of the Portland Way North project. So the thinking is we'll use our state gas tax, state license plate tax to be used on state routes, and it will fund those 2 debts really over extremely long time, 20 years or more. I think it's 20 on both. You know, it seems like forever to somebody my age again. So anyways, that's 202. We're going to use that to debt serve those two big projects. Both of them are, to the extent it matters, zero interest loans, and both of those pieces of funding came from the Ohio Public Works Commission. Okay. Any questions on that? I think that one ended with a negative balance, but I'm real confident that as Brian Satterfield gets caught up, we'll get that stuff reconciled. The negative fund balance in 202 may have gotten done already, but it was running in the red if you look at December of last year. 201, that is that's what most people would describe as the street fund. And I don't have the budget here today, but it's a combination. You may have some questions. It's a combination of the operating budget, the materials we need from the stuff that y'all authorized bidding on Tuesday. Salt, asphalt, materials. That's where that part of the city's expenditures for the street department, if you will, service department, better known as now, that's where that's funded. So it has, I believe this year, there is, I'll just stop there. That's on the spending side. That is fueled by a larger portion of state gas tax, right around $500,000, I think, this year. Y'all remember a few years ago they raised the state gas tax, and then COVID hit, and gas, sales went way down, and so while we expected an increase, we barely held our own. This year's revenue is a little bit of an uptick, so we hope to get past $500,000. Okay, so on that is the largest portion of dedicated revenue that goes in there. I'll try to shortcut this. We make up the difference with a transfer from the general fund. So as you get into the budget, you look at it, there's a large transfer in to 201. And I think that's important to note. My least favorite part of 201 is the debt that we have been rolling over. We haven't paid it down, we've just been paying the interest for the Keller Drive extension. Okay? That's an investment that hasn't paid out with any other pop-up development. But that is where, when you look at the debt service in 201, in the budget, well, how do you spend 700, I'm just pulling off the top of my head, I think 740,000.
The bonds and the note principal is 820.
Yeah, there's that's what that is.
Right, and the interest is 16,307.
It's killing me, man, I hate it.
How old is that? How old are those bonds? When were they issued?
Whenever, that's the thing that gets confused, it's sometimes called the TIF debt. That's what that debt is. So it's that roadway project that has not generated any pop-up development yet, that we're still, we still have to pay for that roadway. So it's roadway and storm sewer. So that's in the kind of, they gave me truth serum on the way up here, so that's.
With that Keller Drive.
My least favorite part of 201.
Yeah.
It irks me every year, and I think we're 4 years into it, Paula. Maybe not quite that long.
It's the only thing that's for sale on that property, right? And that's the Keller, is their property. Am I correct or not?
Well, no, it's not right. I mean, I think all of it's for sale, but the challenge is developing a relationship with the owner of the former Egner property.
Oh, yeah.
It's the NIST property.
NIST property, yeah.
It's a challenge to deal with them. They're not real motivated. And that's kind of the mismatch. I'd say the city's highly motivated to develop that, and the property owner is, probably not as motivated. So as you look at 201, you look at that, like, what in the world is all that debt service for paid out of 201? So I can see from over here, like, Paul has gotten a bunch of notes, you've looked at it. That's what that number is. And it'll be a challenge over the next couple of years to begin to pay that debt down and not just roll over the debt, renew the debt, because we borrowed money at about 1.5% last year. So I think Paula said 16 grand, we borrowed 800,000 roughly. It makes it easy to borrow that money. And that was the decision however many years ago. So I think that's important to know, this committee to know about sort of the structure of that 201 budget. And so I don't know, maybe there's other questions. I'll stop now.
Okay, Paula, do you have any questions for me?
No, it's just that if we're only paying the interest, it's gonna take a long, long, long time to pay off that bond.
Well, yeah, we'll have
It's
to,
a note, not a bond.
yeah, we'll have to go to a bond indebtedness if we don't come up with a strategy not only to pay the interest, but to start to pay this down.
Right, start.
This year's budget was, we lacked the gumption to maybe put that in. My hope is that now that most of the 598 costs are behind us, that we'll be able to come up with a way to do that. You got a minute or 10?
Oh,
Two,
yeah.
there's two sources. Like, well, what would be your suggestion, Mr. Smarty Pants? One would be looking at the capital improvements budget and paying for that, because that's something that we did get for that. We did get that roadway, whether people love it or hate it or in between. So that would be one source. The other source to begin to schedule and pay down that debt would be increasing the amount of the transfer from the general fund to 201. And that's, we want to think a little while, long and hard, as they might say, to make sure we don't, our decent cash position in the general fund, if we aren't careful with that, that could reverse on us. It is a contract year, and so we'll be negotiating the next 3 years this year. And we're going to have to balance paying down that debt, but also having money to maintain good health insurance and a decent pay adjustment.
Okay.
I'll start talking more about that, but as the year goes by. But
Okay.
Two choices that come to me, I thought about it, is probably, as I said a minute ago, drawing down some of the capital improvements budget. We do get our last allocation of HTI money in '23. We might, I don't know if it pains me. I'd like to do something new and different, but hell, I think we already did something new. We put the roadway in, so we never paid for it. So that might be a source, that last chunk of money for HTI. And then the other source would be draw down some of the general fund surplus. All right, too much maybe, but I don't have any other secrets about
Nothing.
201.
Nothing else? Okay, thank you, Tom.
Gary had a question.
I have a question, but kind
Yeah.
of off of that.
Yeah.
So I live on the market.
Right.
And the way I pull around, I go onto, Railroad Street, that
Yeah,
one
yeah.
piece. Not the piece up by the.
I know what you're
but
talking about, yeah.
Is there lights that can be fixed there? It's pretty dark over there. Is that
I don't even know. That's a Jerry question. I'll probably go tomorrow night. I won't go tonight. I'll go look. You're talking about between Market and
Unions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
you're
like
right, that
that
is
little
dark.
curvy
It's-
street.
Yeah, it's very dark right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that's something I could ask about.
No, yeah, you can ask about anything. I would say that we'll take a look. There, you need a street light?
Yeah.
That's okay, I guess. Yeah. But the, yeah, we'll look at that. We'll look. I thought you were, the alley in your neighborhood behind there that has been a subject matter up here twice.
It's pretty rough.
It is.
I didn't want to like just chime in because it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
I try not to drive through there as much as I can because it is like, and I don't want to destroy my car.
I know.
But like, I have 2 teenagers that's going to be driving soon, and we're trying to make them park out back, so that they're not on the street so much. But
And your neighbors,
most of
God
my
rest
neighbors
his,
use
God
that.
bless him, not rest his soul. He sweeps his driveways. Like,
Oh
it's really
yeah,
brutal.
yeah.
So-
He does.
I, not to make light of it, but one of the things we have not done yet, that could come through this committee, is some sense of the order, how you rate and rank alleys, and how we choose to fix them. Nikki,
I
if you
try to go
remember.
over, but I'm like just going into someone's yard slightly this way, getting really close to that garage.
Oh, I know.
It's
It
like, I'm
could be
trying to miss them, but
dangerous.
they
It's
are
a mess.
hard. Like,
It's a mess. I wanted to like for Mr. Osborne, gosh, it's all, there are a number of alleys. So my point is to somehow rate and rank them.
yeah.
And 150,000, that's what we put into
Doesn't
the
seem like a
budget.
whole lot, but,
It
yeah.
won't go very far.
Yeah.
It won't go far, and many of these alleys don't have what you'd call any sort of base. So whatever you put on top is gonna pop up, or
It's not gonna stay there.
it's not gonna stay.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I would point out that 3 or 4 years ago, we paved all of the alleys, the alley north and south of Harding Way, because those commercial alleys were just absolutely. What rating and ranking scheme, Nikki came up with. No, I mean, we just kind of arbitrarily said, we've got to pave these alleys. And they made a difference. There's one customer where there's a little bit of it's a real big bird bath, where the catch basin is above the level of the alley, but that was a pretty expensive project, as I recall, paving 4 or 5 blocks on either side. So if alley renovation, alley repaving is a big deal, then I would think you'd have to carve out some of 203. So we're not gonna pave, we're not gonna resurface a residential street or two, and we're gonna take the worst 10 alleys and address them. Excuse me.
The thing about a small city like this is that alleys take you back. Alleys are always part of a city in Ohio. Alleys
yeah.
are where kids played, you couldn't cross the street, but you could play in the alley behind you. And,
Yeah, 'cause you can't play on my road.
yeah.
What's,
Dangerous.
well, yeah, but I mean,
think,
it's the
Nikki,
garbage
that's a
trucks.
great idea.
Is that how they
Just
come?
take them
Well,
back
no,
the
because where
alleys.
They
I
come
live,
on the
they
front?
come in the front, yeah.
We ran into this when one of the larger private companies sold, sort of took over part of the town. And they were real hard-nosed about going down alleys, and we had a bit of a discussion with them. We kind of piecemealed it out. We didn't really address it. So the only point I wanted to make, not going on and on, we don't have a plan for prioritizing and fixing alleys.
I'm not trying to complain about my street too much, but I mean,
No.
if we,
Yeah, go ahead, that's on tape, everybody.
like, I got the water in my basement, so I called it a dry out one time.
Yeah.
And, they said, well, there's not a whole lot we can do because we can't run anything out front because my street floods when it rains.
Mhm.
Like, it gets up to almost my bottom step, it's going up my porch, so it's like
Yep.
floods the street, floods the sidewalk, so we can't run anything out that way. And then it's gonna cost me $7,000 more to have them run it out to the alley, because you're only allowed to run it like so many feet. And so then they would have to get like some sort of permit to run it even further, and it would cost me more money, and I was like, screw it, I'll just deal with the water in my basement.
Yeah.
Because I'm not paying that, so,
Was that
I mean, so we have
Tuesday
like our
that-
messed up alley behind us and our flooded street in front of us.
Was that
So-
Tuesday that that came up, when the Aspen Trio was here?
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Yeah?
Yeah.
We've been out there, we're getting ready to televise that sewer, just an update on when it came to mind. The little bit concerned that some of those houses, they're not connected to the storm sewer. So there's a storm sewer nearby, and part of the issue of, well, the housing complex, I think we're understanding that a little bit better, will it, cause a problem? Some of those houses, we're hoping they got a plug storm tile. It may be that some of those were never tied into the city sewer, the city storm sewer. In which case, I would say that's probably their problem to fix. Here's the city storm sewer, tie into it.
I don't think the flooding on my street is causing the water in my basement.
No, I'm
It's
just
not coming
talking-
in this
yeah.
wall, it's
Yeah.
coming in this wall.
Yeah.
And I have a hill that comes down, like my side yard is a little bit of a hill, so I don't know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably because my house is like 180 years old, it's old.
I don't know if it's,
But-
yeah, you'd have to, interesting to see if it's, where it's tied into the storm sewer. But I don't want to get into the basement fixers, but we've been working since Tuesday to get a handle on why those basements were flooding. We're hoping we find that they're connected to our storm sewer and it's something that can be cleaned. A bad scenario is if they just took the storm downspouts, tiled them into gravel, and away you go.
I'd be more
That
happy
would
with
be-
the alley done in the
That,
street.
right, but I'm just saying over at Aspen, it may be that those units weren't tied into the nearby, I would say adjacent storm sewer. That will be a,
The basic contractor,
Yeah.
would he have a sense of the underground today? You have to,
yeah, I think some were and some weren't without getting too far afield, Ken.
yeah,
But anyway, that's
Okay.
my update on the
yeah, okay.
storm sewer down there. So
Okay.
anyway, I don't know what else on 201. I just, as you get accustomed to it, trying to understand where different funds come from, what we're using them for, that was kind of my objective, and maybe adding that to the agenda. It's that and how the police and fire, 103, 104, and 101, how those budgets blend to fund the police and fire. That and this are probably the two most complicated parts of trying to get a good working knowledge of the budget. Give me about one more second. In 201, issue came up the other night, and until we resolve it in everyone's mind, how we divide up the salaries for different people in the same service department. So if you went back before we did this cost accounting, you'd see that we were spending the equivalent of 7 full-time equivalents out of the street fund. I don't have it, it's much less than that. I think it's 160, 70,000, Paul, or maybe you have that, for salaries in 201.
Yeah. There's not,
So if you don't use 204, the Parks Fund, to pay salaries, then this number would probably go up. This number is less because instead of some of the crew that's out working on the water line break, they're probably as much street department. In April, they'll be street department employees. Tonight, they're water maintenance. And that has really, using that way of funding those 10 or 11 employees has really provided relief to 201. So it's still has to be paid, but we're paying less if you looked at it over the last handful of years for salaries in the street fund than we did when we switched back over to the Merrill system. All right.
Will that be all, Tom?
Yeah, that's probably all I can go on.
Okay, I want to make sure.
If I get paid by the word, some people remember a guy named Ed Olson, who was
Oh,
Richland County
yeah,
Commissioner
any-
for forever.
Carrie, you okay? Any questions for Tom or?
People would say to me, Ed, he said you only get a lifetime supply of words, and then look over at me and say,
Do we have any
And
other
I do
business?
agree with what he said as far as
Okay.
like doing a,
We'll need to talk a little bit.
you know, for the alleys, like ranking them. But again, that fund is not gonna last to do very much, so.
you could spend $500,000 for a few years, and your phone would ring about, when's my alley gonna get fixed? That's the heck of
Yeah.
it. It's that big of a, but we've never quantified it. Maybe that's a start. Again, I know we want to chase out here, but once upon a time, Bucyrus passed their dedicated income tax levy for streets. He got shot down the first time. And then a friend of Julian and mine, Bob Gulling, was on council. Legendary guy. And he mapped out a multi-year plan. We're gonna do this street, this street, this street, and sold, sounds like a bad verb, went to the voters, and they kind of reversed their opinion. If they knew there was a plan, this is gonna get done,
Yeah.
there's more of a willingness to fund that. So, don't misconstrue that. I'm not talking about an income tax for alleys tonight, but it's something to think about. If the public knows what we're gonna do, they're gonna be for sure more supportive of whatever that might be. So, all right, thanks for
Thank you, Tom.
indulging me. And
There's
a
nothing
lot of
else
learning to be
you-
done.
Okay, if there's no other business, the next meeting date will be February 9th at 7?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second that?
I'll second that.
Carrie, second that? Thank you very much.
7:57.
Yes.
Doesn't the